We are on the chapter number 5, I guess, of um, Sardin. The chapter is called The Lewis Club. Let's start. I climbed the hill behind the hospital to attend a meeting of the Lewis Club. Do other names boast affiliated clubs? Certainly there is no Rachel Club. Maybe Persephons have a club. We Dwellers do. It's real. There are chapters scattered around the country. My grandmother, Louise Lamont, was a member of the first ever Lewis Club in Milwaukee. Later, after she moved to Detroit to be closer to her daughter and eponymous baby granddaughter, she met another Lewis waiting in line at Measure, and together they formed the Metro Detroit chapter. They advertised it in the paper. I attended an early meeting as an infant. There's a photo I still possess, scanned and saved, that shows a group of 6 white-haired women, all named Louis, gathered around a swaddled baby burrito who is also named Louis. Their faces frozen in pools of delight. Little burrito Louis is crying. My only conscious memory of that Louis club comes from when I must have been 9 or 10. I can remember the dry floral scent of someone else's grandmother's house, and what then seemed to me, a shy kid, an overwhelming cacophony of laughter, unrelenting cackles. I retreated into an adjoining room where I played my Nintendo DS. One of the Louises, I have no idea which one, stumbled upon me there, and for at least 10 minutes she watched the shimmering screen silently over my shoulder. Grandma Louis died when I was 12, and throughout my teens, my mother would gently inquire every couple of years if I ever thought about attending a meeting of the Louis Club. I did not. Without Grandma Louis, unthinkable. In any cause, in any case, I'm not sure the Detroit chapter lasted long without her. So, my first thought upon arriving in California was not I ought to look up at the local Lewis Club, nor was it my second thought or my 353rd. It was my mother who sent me the link. I thought of Graham's club the other day, she wrote. And look what I found. It was a page on the Lewis Club website advertising the existence of a San Francisco Bay Area chapter. I might not have been so eager to meet the Lewises if I hadn't been spending all day with the cold-eyed rats of at General Dexterity. By comparison, hanging out with a bunch of middle-aged ladies with the same name as me sounded pretty alluring. The meeting was held in a dark, shingled house in a twisty neighborhood, reached by a hidden staircase that wandered up from Penazo's Avenue. Sorry, please don't mind my pronunciation. I hiked from the Farnsworth steps to Edgewood Avenue to a cul-de-sac that backed up against the eucalyptus forest that crowned the hill. A handwritten sign on the door read, "Welcome, Louis." It made me smile. I could tell that whoever wrote it was very pleased with herself. Not without reason. The house was large and deeply lifted, all the shelves and surfaces stacked with books and books, framed pictures, old greeting cards set up like tent cities. If there was a spectrum of spaces defined at one end by my barren apartment, this marked the other extreme. Every single surface told a story, a long one, with digressions. The Lewises were in the dining room, open to the kitchen, 5 of them clustered around a long table beside a wide window that showed a panorama of the western city. Golden Gate Park, my neighborhood beyond it, the fuzzy gray bar of the ocean beyond everything, their hair bleached by age, glowed in the afternoon light. If you ever wonder about the difference between Metro Detroit and the San Francisco Bay Area, compare the Lewis clubs. The hostess, whom I thought of as Hilltop Lewis, had owned her house since 1972, an impossible span. She had once run a cheese shop at the base of the hill, and her taste had not grown less discriminating. She served as the stinkiest treat I have ever been offered as at a casual gathering, nibbling with varying degrees of enthusiasm, but also compact Lewis, who had been a marketing executive at that company in its bloom years, her wrists dripped with bracelets and chunky bangles, all gold. They piled up onto her forearm. She looked like a Valkyrie queen. Professor Lewis, who taught anthropology at the University of San Francisco, through the window she pointed to the spires of St. Ignatius. I've been climbing that hill for a decade. She was lean like a goat. Impeccable Lewis, who possessed the kind of sartorial style that stops you on the street. She was wearing jodhpurs with confidence, and above them an inky denim jacket with any of the cold-eyed rats who have killed her to acquire, would have killed her to acquire. Literally murdered her. Don't wear that down by the ballpark, I warned. Old Louis, who deserved a better nickname, but truly she was old. Somewhere past 90. Physically, she seemed barely there, curled into herself, but her eyes were bright. And when I walked into the dining room and introduced myself, she crowed. I didn't know they were still making noises. They were interesting and lively, their relationships worn in and comforting. They had been gathering for 2 decades. I sat and listened and smiled and genuinely enjoyed myself. Though afterwards, as I padded down the transfer steps, I worried that I'd been too quiet, too boring. The other Louises had sharp opinions. They took up space. They reminded me of Grandma Louise, and I thought about her Chicago prison life, the absurd density of it. It was the single culinary tradition my family possessed, and it was horrible. But she had baked it all the time. As I walked through Golden Gate Park, it struck me. The mystery of that woman's life. I hadn't ever known her. Not really. I sucked in a deep breath. She had relocated from Wisconsin to Michigan, but before that she lived in Chicago and performed with an experimental theater company, bunking with 3 other women in a tiny apartment, and not only baking that awful bread, but bringing it home to share because it was free and more or less nutritious. In later years, when she baked Chicago prison loaf, it must have conjured that other place, that other time. 4 women in bunk beds, midnight shows, crimson wigs. I sat at a computer 12 hours a day and slumped nutritive gel for lunch and dinner. And slumped nutritive gel for lunch and dinner. After my success in college, my neat acquisition of a job, and my prestigious new purchase, I'd considered myself a child of whom parents and grandparents could be proud. But it struck me that the starkness of my life, Grandma Louise, if she could come to visit, and for the first time ever, I felt a deep wish that she could visit me here, just her alone, alive. If she could have, and if she had seen me here in San Francisco, she wouldn't have been proud of me. She would have been sad and maybe a little bit worried. I needed a more interesting life. I could start by learning something. I could start with the startup. Amazing. Okay. Yeah, that was the chapter number 5, the Lewis Club. Interesting, wasn't it? Thank you for listening, guys. Bye bye.